Thank you, and good evening everyone, and it's great to be here talking about something that I think is both a very important and urgent issue, and hopefully by the end of the next 20 minutes you will agree with me. So I'm going to talk about antibiotic resistance and the war on superbugs. So I'll give a quick overview of the antibiotic era and how antibiotic misuse is potentially taking us out of the antibiotic era.
Superbugs.
Excuse me.
Superbugs.
What here?
They're fighting back.
Mm.
They tried to
I say an urgent and important problem. So antibiotic misuse is leading to the rise of antibiotic resistance in bacteria, which we know as superbugs. And I'll go through some approaches that we can take to try and tackle this problem, and I'll talk a little bit about antimicrobial peptides, which is a pet favourite of mine, and also a bit of outlook for the future. So I'll jump right in here to the dawn of the antibiotic era, which I think a lot of people would agree would be the discovery of penicillin. And that was by Fleming in 1928. And Fleming discovered penicillin by accident, actually, when he went into the lab one day and noticed that his plates, his agar plates, or they might have been gelatin back then, but whatever, his plates of bacteria had acquired some mould from the air inside the lab, and Fleming was, by his own account, quite a sloppy technician. So Fleming looked at this and thought, well, that's interesting. I'll make a note of that, that where the mould is growing on the plates, no bacteria is growing. So there's something inhibiting the growth of the bacteria. That could be useful. Notes it down, threw out the plates and did nothing with it forever. Luckily, 12 years later, Florey and Chain in their lab got hold of this and decided to start working on what would later become penicillin. They isolated this mould and started developing and isolating the product of this mould, and eventually marketed that as penicillin, the first major antibiotic. So Fleming, Florey and Chain were awarded a Nobel Prize for this work, and I think Australia probably gave an even bigger honour to Florey in putting his head on the old taking notes there. And so that was able to, that was developed in time to treat the injuries of soldiers from World War II during the 1940s. And this graph here, I've included to show, I've included to show this, just to show how the penicillin and other antibiotics have really, it's not an exaggeration to say that they've changed the way that we live. This is a graph of all the causes of death for the youth, I suppose, everyone aged 15 to 24. The relative contribution of these causes to death for a 20-year-old over the past 100 years. So if you were a 20-year-old and you were going to die 100 years ago, there was almost a 50% chance that you would have died from an infectious disease. And this is before vaccines were started to be given to the public in about 1950. So this is all infections that the body was not able to overcome through its own immune system. So we see there was some decline here, there was some success with antiseptics in hospitals and a bit better care. Around about the 1940s, when penicillin and other similar drugs were discovered, there's a rapid decline, and now it's really rare for a young person to die of an infectious disease. So it really has changed our whole, it's changed the way we live life. You know, getting...
The 1966.
1966? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. That was to do with the way that data was collected, so there's some new categories coming in antibiotics, just getting a simple scratch could have been deadly. So it's really no exaggeration to say it's changed the way that we've lived our lives. And there's a number of academics estimate that the number of lives that have been saved by antibiotics since the invention of penicillin is in the order of 100 million, and that's probably pretty realistic. So I mentioned some other antibiotics. I'll just briefly give a bit of a rundown of the major antibiotic classes and the target within bacteria that they act upon and some drawbacks of these drugs. So penicillins and the similar class of drug, the cephalosporins, they target the bacterial cell wall, but as we know, it's not uncommon to have allergies to penicillin, so that is a drawback. The quinolones target bacterial DNA replication, but these have some nasty effects on the central nervous system. Macrolides, aminoglycosides, and tetracyclines all target bacterial protein synthesis, but unfortunately they have side effects of liver toxicity, hearing loss, and in the case of tetracycline, UV sensitivity. So if you've ever had tetracycline or doxycycline, you will have been told to stay out of the sun because it's a lot easier to get sunburn when you're on those antibiotics. And yet, despite all of those risks that come with taking antibiotics, in many cases, if you have a serious bacterial infection, it is much less risky to take these than to try and fight off the infection. So antibiotics have become a really integral part of modern medicine. You go into hospital for an operation, you'll be given prophylactic antibiotics to make sure you don't get an infection deep in the wound. They really are a part of how we do medicine today, and we wouldn't know what to do without them. And that's a real problem because we might soon have to start thinking about how we are going to do without them. So unfortunately, with use of antibiotics comes misuse and abuse. And that leads to antibiotic resistance, which I'll explain a bit more in the next slide. But when this comes up as to what's causing antibiotic resistance, the question of giving antibiotic to livestock always comes up, and it's a bit controversial. In Australia, it's not actually that much of a contributor, I don't think, because we don't give as many antibiotics to our livestock here as in other countries. So that's a good thing, and we need to keep demanding that we don't give antibiotics to our farm animals when they're not sick. Antibiotics on farms should only be used, I believe, when animals are sick, just as they should be used only when we're sick for us. Something that we can affect much more acutely or in our daily lives is overprescribing of antibiotics, which is taking antibiotics when you don't need them. This is really the everyday occurrence that's driving antibiotic resistance. So 29 million prescriptions were written last year in Australia, and obviously that's more than one prescription for every Australian. So I don't know who's taking all of these antibiotics. It is true that not all of these prescriptions are filled. They're not taken to the chemist, and that's a good thing. If you get a prescription for an antibiotic and then you start to get over the infection on your own, there's you should maybe consult with your doctor. But it's not always necessary to get that antibiotic if you just went to the doctor and requested it in the first place. And the other thing is that sometimes people will get the antibiotic and then not take them at all. In that case, you should not dispose of them in the bin. That'll go to landfill and the runoff will get into the system. So if you do get an antibiotic prescription and you don't end up taking it, please take it back to the pharmacy and they'll dispose of it properly. So I looked at a survey by NPS MedicineWise, the pharmaceutical service, and I was a bit shocked to find that 20 to 30% of Australians go to the GP and expect to get antibiotics when they have a cold. And I was pretty shocked by that, right? Apart from the fact that most colds are caused by a virus, and antibiotics have no effect on the virus. In that you do have a mild respiratory infection that's caused by bacteria, we really do need to respect antibiotics and use them only when there is a really good call to do so, if we're seriously ill. Otherwise, they will lose their power. And I was actually more concerned by the stat that 57% of GPs who answered this survey said that they would prescribe antibiotics to a patient that came in and said that they wanted them. And I really think that GPs need to take a bit more of a responsibility here. And I know it's difficult when a patient says, I'm not leaving until you give me a prescription. But I guess it's a tragedy of the commons. They think, oh, what will one more antibiotic prescription do? But if everyone's doing that, then there's a massive overuse of antibiotics. And that's the situation that we've got today, where there's more than one prescription given per person per year. Now, something else that comes up in talking about how to take antibiotics properly is, should you take the full course that you're given? If it's a 7-day or a 10-day course, it seems like a long time, right? And it was always drilled into me that you should. If you've been given a prescription for a course of antibiotics, you always take them all because you don't want them to come back and they'll be stronger next time. Actually, just doing some research for this, my mind has been blown, and I've found that that's actually not what the latest research is saying. Of course, again, consult with your doctor, but there are cases in which if you do feel better after a few days, and I feel really gross saying this, if you do feel better after a few days, in a few cases it is okay to stop. And it's complicated, and I'll go through why that might be the case on the next slide. So this is the basic mechanism of how bacteria gain resistance. So say you have an infection and you go and get some antibiotics. So this is what's going on in your body. You've got some bacterial infection and some of them are resistant to your antibiotic. That's represented by the dark ones here. So you take your antibiotic for a couple of days. Say after 2 days, you've killed off half the bacteria, and so you feel a bit better, right? Because you don't have as much bacteria in your system, your body starts to feel like it's fighting back. The question is it okay to stop taking the antibiotics here? At this point, maybe. In the ideal situation, your immune system will come along and clean up what's left over, now that there's fewer of them there. But in the worst case scenario, your body will not fight off the rest, and the bacteria will reproliferate to the level that they were at before. Only this time, because you've killed off a lot of the susceptible bacteria, it's multiplied from the population that had a lot of resistant bacteria, and you'll have more antibiotic-resistant bacteria, and you'll need to get a different class of antibiotic. So that is one way in which antibiotic resistance can arise. Otherwise, if you continue to take your full course of antibiotics, you'll kill all the susceptible bacteria, and you should almost certainly be able to clear out the resistant mutants. But then all of your the helpful bacteria in your gut are going to be completely obliterated, and you'll be a little bit more susceptible to other infections in the meantime. So it's a balance, and on balance, the advice at the moment is to take the antibiotics as prescribed, but do keep an eye on the recommendations. I should mention that the evolution of resistance in bacteria is random, just like any variation in genetics. So just as some people have red hair, some bacteria, it could be 1%, could be 10%, resistant to bacteria to begin with. And the use of antibiotics selects for those and makes them the fittest, and they're the ones that survive the antibiotic use. So, when this happens en masse, and a lot of people are taking antibiotics, and a lot of individuals are nurturing these antibiotic-resistant strains, this is the sort of thing we see. The Centers for Disease Control estimated that there were 2 million antibiotic-resistant infections in the USA in 2013. Right, that's a lot. And And the patterns are pretty clear here that as soon as a drug, here represented in blue, azithromycin, is brought onto the market, the levels of resistance quickly follow it. So I know correlation does not imply causation, right? But this is pretty clear, and there's a known mechanism. This is not speculation. So bacteria really do gain resistance to every new class of antibiotics that we bring out quite quickly. So this is what's happening in general with the rise of antibiotic resistance. Let's take a closer look at some of the worst of superbugs. Just this Monday, the World Health Organization